Okay, so I know we were looking around on the Citadel a little bit for specific characters or people to turn in quests for, and also there was the whole question about how exactly we are supposed to resolve that discussion between Liara and her father. And, well, I believe I have many of the answers here, so let's actually hop back into the Citadel real quick here, and we will hopefully
You're cleared to dock,
address
Normandy.
those
Do you
things
need ground
properly
transport?
this time. So, I think, why don't we go to the Presidium Commons here, and we'll try
It'll be
to
there momentarily.
do this conversation with Liara and her father properly this time. And all I can say with regard to that is that, well, I am a silly Billy.
I think I'm ready to end it with him.
Oh,
Things
dear.
weren't great even before he deployed, and if I pretend to be happy over the Vids,
It's
heard
not
this
fair to him
discussion?
or to you. With all the craziness of a war going on, you deserve to be happy.
and I'm not. I have to be honest with him.
Then you need to tell him.
You've heard my thoughts about that Asari mistress, but, alright. Suppose we'll let them do their thing. So, like I said, I was being a bit of a silly Billy, because if we try to have this conversation with Liara that we
Hello, Shepard.
attempted to have many times before... Oh, actually, wait a second.
Hey, I remember you. Shepard, right? Heard you're fighting the Reapers.
Matriarch Athena, you were working on Iliad.
Oh dear.
How'd you end up here?
Now we have perhaps reloaded a save that is way too far back, because we've not even had this conversation before, which I don't
So I
think
moved here.
is what we're looking for.
I don't think so. I've seen some video footage of you looking at Liara.
For what it's worth, that's also a reference to Lair the Shadowbroker, where we saw an image of Athena.
Yeah. Matriarch.
So tell you what, we've seen this conversation many times before. So I'm going to skip through this, and I just want to quickly figure out what is going on from
I
a
only work
save
with
standpoint
servants
here.
to fight the Reapers. Is that
I'm no commando, but anyway, you combine her work with
Because we may not have the save we're looking for right now. I'm gonna skip this, interrupt for what it's worth. But
an eye on her.
I just want to make sure that by reloading that save, we didn't accidentally undo any progress that we had on other quests that we might have turned in, like... Okay, but we did do that. Hold on. Hold on. Are we in time-traveling purgatory right now? Yes. The question is, are we actually okay or not? I'm trying to verify that by checking what quests we have and have not turned in here. Because, for example, the Citadel Dying Krogan, I know we did that fairly recently. Cerberus Abductions. Barlavon, okay. So I think we are actually okay here. I think we are fine. I think we've still completed any quests that we were looking to turn in here in our previous trip to the Citadel and what have you, so I'm a little surprised that we still had that introductory conversation with Matriarch Athena here, but I'm hoping that by doing this save reset that we have not accidentally missed out on anything. But anyways, so we're back on the Citadel here, and I think I have figured out why we were seemingly not able to do what we were trying to do previously between this conversation with Liara and her father. And the reason for that is, if we talk to Liara here real quick.
the bartender over there?
The matriarch hired by the Asari government to track my movements?
She's your father.
And we've heard
I know.
this.
You know.
I'm a very good information broker.
And you haven't talked to her about spying on you?
If I did that, They might send someone who wasn't as sympathetic to me.
And yes, so she was in fact spying on Liara, and that is the reason why, apparently, her father, Matriarch Athena, was on Ilium in Mass Effect 2, collecting information on her, and that's why we heard a little bit about how Matriarch Athena had some inside info on Liara. So, yeah, this has all been a spy effort, where, no, they don't actually have a random Asari Matriarch that has been reduced to being just a bartender in various places. That would be rather silly, so let's make Liara talk to her.
Liara.
Oh, fine.
And then, the thing is, so we get that update to the Asari Second Fleet, and we hear this conversation between them, and this series of conversations that we've heard many, many times before. For some reason, I had thought that you get that war asset there immediately after talking to Liara and convincing her to talk to her father, and also a separate one at the conclusion of this series of conversations. That is not the case. That first war assets update that we just saw is the only war assets update that you get from this, and so, yeah, we may have, gone through a whole ordeal just to try to get something else that doesn't actually exist. So we're fine. We could, of course, do the whole thing that we did a bazillion times before and hear this conversation entirely from beginning to end, but I think we should be fine, because we do have the war asset, and so I don't think we need to actually listen to this conversation in full in order to lock it in or anything like that. So we should be good.
But against Reaper forces, that's...
Okay, so, other than that, I believe we were looking for someone that we were looking to turn in a quest for, because is this one? Scientist is searching for missing prototypes for a biotic amplification system. Search the Ismar frontier for the components and return them to the scientist on the Citadel. Is it that one? I thought there was one where we had a Solarian of some variety, and we just weren't sure where exactly he was, because our mission summary said that he was on the Citadel, but did not specify where on the Citadel, so we were like, I don't know. But, I think, is it this one? It might be that one. So, let us check out a place where we did get one of those quests previously, but I don't think we've yet turned it in, and I think this is the Solarian in question. And that place is actually the hospital. What's up, Steel Wolf? How's it going? We are, in fact, doing Legendary Edition here. Mass Effect 3. We have recently finished, what was the most recent big quest we did? I suppose the Krogan team in the Attican Traverse. If we go to the hospital, this is the guy we're looking for.
I believe you were looking for these prototypes?
You found them? Thank you. These biotic upgrades will save a lot of Alliance lives. We'll begin production immediately. Here, for your trouble.
Alright. And for what it's worth, we got experience and only experience from completing that quest. And so, that whatever here, for what it's worth, was that guy, that Solarian, physically handing us experience, because it was not credits, it was not an item or anything like that, so, alright, Solarian dude, that's kind of weird, but sure. Alright, so I think at that stage, that is one of the... Ooh.
Well, we need to prescribe you another round of antibiotics.
This guy, he's having a rough time.
Your squad applied the Metagel.
Well, this is the first set of dialogues from their conversation, so no, we're good there. But I believe that is just about everything on the Citadel before we head out to do other things. There may be one other thing that I'm not 100% sure if we completed or not, so might... this guy looks a whole lot like Shepard, at least from a distance. He's wearing the same sort of or very similar Alliance uniform, and at least from this distance, the hairstyle looked extremely similar, and you couldn't see the details on the face, obviously, from from like here. You can tell the face is definitely different, but for a second there, I was like, is this our doppelganger? We are going Adept is our class. We are Tally is our romance. And then our difficulty is Insanity. And this is my first time playing on Insanity, so it's been a bit of an adventure in that sense.
Thank you for shopping.
We have, I believe at this stage, only died once for what it's worth. And at one time was to an errant grenade thrown by a Cerberus assault trooper while we were hanging out in a cramped space, and I just did not see the grenade, and then it blew up, and then we died. And that is the only death we've had thus far. So you know what? Little pat on the back for that. I'm glad that we've been doing fairly well from a difficulty standpoint thus far. But of course, upon mentioning that, that absolutely means that I've just jinxed the rest of our entire playthrough, and we will now die at least once on every single mission for the entirety of the game, whether that is a mission that actually has combat or not. So now we have that to look forward to. But there is one thing I wanted to check that we may have technically done already, but I'm not 100% sure, so let's just be sure. Yeah, my first Mass Effect playthrough, I did Liara. That was my love interest. And then after that, I played Mass Effect 1 again, and then I accidentally romanced Liara again, so I was like, okay, if I'm playing Legendary Edition, I just want to make sure that I'm not romancing Liara, and pretty much anything else would be fine for me. But I had never romanced Tally before, so I thought, you know what? This is as good an excuse as any.
They're going to call for boarding pretty soon. I should...
I know.
Listen, I've heard ads for a place called Sanctuary. It's supposed to be a safe haven from the war.
Aptly
I
made.
want you and the girls to go.
What?
I don't want to worry about you, okay?
Okay. I'll see if I can get along.
I'll send a message for Neri's birthday.
I thought you were supposed to avoid sending messages.
Hey, excuse me, Keeper. I'm trying to listen to this conversation. Okay, so we do need to listen to this conversation in full, which that seemed like a bit of a conclusion there, but just to be sure, let's see if they have anything more to say. That may be it. In which case, let us head back, because you need to listen to that conversation all the way to the end, and then, if you go to, not here, if you go to, after having done that, the embassies, yeah, I don't know about that whole sanctuary thing, we'll see, sounds a little too good to be true, right? Sounds like that may be a little too good to be true. But if we go back to our Spectre place, just want to make sure that if we go over whichever one of these things it is, not this one. Okay, let's see. Do we have military pardons for Normandy engineers? We authorize that. Citadel entry authorization authorized. That's for the Grissom Academy stuff. No. So I don't think we have what I was expecting to see here. That is, if you finish hearing that conversation between that Turian and that Asari, I think you can get one other thing to pop up here that I'm not currently seeing. So that leads me to believe that perhaps they do have a little bit more to that conversation that we've not yet heard. So let's try doubling back there. Now, it may just be that for whatever reason, we've already done it, and so some things might be grayed out, but that one just isn't. It just completely disappeared. I'm not entirely sure about that, but let's just try to be safe here and see if we can make that happen. Because I believe that is the way it works. But as I think I previously stated, when it comes to these conversations on the Citadel and how sometimes you're supporting one person over another person, or in this case, just listening to some conversations and getting some other consequences, other effects from doing that, at times that does lead to other things happening.
First deployment is somewhere near Palaven. Reports say not to depend.
And I'm not as familiar with all those.
I'll leave vid messages then, and you can do the same.
Well, they said that due to concerns about signal congestion, we're supposed to avoid sending messages at all. They're trying to keep war data coming through, so every data packet counts.
So
how am I supposed to talk with you then?
How are you supposed to talk with him? Good question. Perhaps that is the kind of thing that we might be able to enable at the Spectre table, but again, let's just walk away, walk back, see if we can trigger any subsequent components of that conversation. I swear, this Keeper is just out to get us. Extremely obnoxious, if you ask me. So, I mean, we could just, like, go back and forth between the embassies and this Turian and Asari and see what the breaking point is, but I'm pretty sure that was a new part of that conversation, or at least it wasn't what we heard last time. Thanks for stopping by, Steelwolf. Yeah, you know, like I said, we jinxed it. We jinxed it. Even when we're just hanging out on the Citadel like this, you know, we are inevitably going to end up dying, is now what we've cursed ourselves to do. So, you know, it's gonna happen. It is gonna happen, but, you know, we'll just try to do it stylishly. Have some fun with it, you know? Okay, so, like, yeah, still no updates here. And nothing that would seem to be in direct relation to that conversation we were hearing before. Because it sounds like the thing in question is, might there be a way to improve communications between soldiers going out and fighting in the war and their loved ones back on whatever their home planet is, or in that case, you know, if they're going to other locations to seek sanctuary.
Welcome, Commander Shepard. One moment, please.
So, I'm not sure how many more components to this conversation there are, but let's try to see it through. I'm intrigued. Go away, Keeper. Go away, Keeper.
So, you're just silent behind enemy lines until the war is over?
No, they've got us on rotation. We're mostly in fortified holding zones until strike teams clear an area. Then we come in and set up medical bunkers and supply depots. And then the main fleet comes in to occupy.
I'm not wearing commando leather, honey. What does that mean?
We'll be perfectly safe. They don't put engineers on the front lines.
But I
You won't be able to talk to us.
do think we'd heard that. That one does sound familiar. I remember him saying before that they don't put engineers in the front lines. So that makes me wonder if perhaps we've already done it, and like I said, maybe for some reason it's just not showing up on our Spectre terminal. In which case, maybe we just carry on here and assume that we have done so, but I do not recall specifically as to whether we have or have not. So maybe we'll just check this one last time, and if it's not here, and it isn't, then we'll just carry on in our embassy. So it definitely was not that. That was the mission with Kasumi. Welcome, presumably not that. Korean Fleet Intel doesn't seem to have any relation to what they're talking about. Citadel Entry Authorization authorized. Yeah, this is in direct response to Grissom Academy, which is obviously not what's happening there. And then the military pardons for Normandy Engineers is obviously the Ken and Donnelly? The two engineers that joined us in Mass Effect 2. They were hanging out in engineering that are now back on the Normandy. So, yeah. I cannot say with confidence that we've done it, but given how we've gone back and forth a bit there, and checked both the discussion and the Spectre terminal, I am hoping that for some reason we've done it and yet it just isn't showing up. But in theory, I believe that may be a thing. So, barring that, or at least in the absence of that, I suppose we now just head back to the Normandy. So let's do that. And now, just check for emails, but nothing here. Okay. And, oh, one other thing we might look to do is, didn't we give Engineer Adams some equipment recently that we had purchased from the Citadel? It might be worth checking in with him to see if he has any updates on that. Because here he is.
Thanks, Commander. That GX-12 thermal pipe arrived. We're performing the modifications right now.
So, how did I get volunteered to crawl through the ducts?
You're the power control engineer, not me.
Damn hot in here. Hey, didn't Adams say that all in Normandy is Edie?
Kenneth, stop right there.
Tell Joker. He'll get jealous.
Oh, so yeah, here's Donnelly and Daniels. Those are the two that we obviously authorized to get back here, as we were seeing at the Spectre Terminal. And yes, they are currently testing out the equipment that we purchased. So they're making progress there, but it doesn't sound like they're done just yet. But anyways, let's head back up to the CIC. Because I think from here, if we're looking at what our next mission is going to be, so that's the GX-12 thermal pipe that we just checked in on them about. It sounds like they just need a little bit of time and then they'll be all set with that. Other than that, though, as I believe I mentioned previously, before you do some main quest missions that may or may not happen to be the one that we are currently highlighting with this quest log, you do want to try to make a point of finishing many of your side quests, because there are, kind of similar to Mass Effect 2, there are some things that you can only do at certain points of time, or at least, perhaps, put it more precisely, there are some things that are no longer available to you if you wait too long to get around to them. So, for that reason, we wanted to make sure that we at least got the ball rolling, if not completely finished, many of the quests that we had before. And I think what we're looking at now, for what we have left, are, I'm pretty sure, let me just sanity check here, I'm pretty sure are all things that we can do later on. Heating unit stabilizers, I'm surprised that we still have not gotten this. So that does seem a little strange to me, because I'm pretty sure this is another thing that we just buy at the Citadel. And I'm pretty sure we did look for it, but for whatever reason, it eluded us. So, I mean, I think we can still do this on a later occasion. But other than that, yeah, all this other stuff, I think is still fine for us to hold off on. So I think we're good here. In which case, that means, if we'd like to, we can go after some of the bigger missions, namely either Tuchanka, Turian Platoon, or Priority Tuchanka. And so, Tuchanka Turian Platoon, remember, was the one that Primarch Victus had instructed us, or at least requested, that we do immediately after finishing Priority Surkesh, where he had said, hey, I have some guys, some troops that may or may not be located on Tuchanka, and the Krogan probably don't know about them, and I'd like for you to kind of just make sure that that stuff all gets resolved while still keeping it under the radar. So we had that, and then we had the Krogan team, which is the one that we did, which is the one that Rex requested that we do after finishing Priority Surkesh. And once you finish one of those two missions, then Priority Tuchanka becomes available to you. So we could go with Priority Tuchanka, which is, well, where we are planning to try to deploy the Genophage Cure, which obviously would be a pretty big deal, I would think. And so we could do either of these. And although this is in some ways a quest that, this is in some ways a quest that would normally lead into Priority Tuchanka, since we've done the Krogan team, it's not absolutely necessary that we do this first. And in some ways, this is actually a quest that I think is kind of nice for us to do later on as a bit of a test for specifically Garrus, to see just how much he has ascended to godhood. And I think the later on we do that test, probably the better, because we certainly still have some additional upgrades that we could give to Garrus. So I think for that reason, we may actually go for Priority Tuchanka here. And the other stuff, there are some things that we could still do on the Citadel, but I think we were saying that we wanted to save those for a later occasion. And those ones should be fine to wait on. Okay, so let us leave the Citadel. And if we are looking to, well, cure the Genophage, then we could go over here. I suppose you could make the case that if there are areas that we've not yet explored, that we could try to explore those. I think for the most part we've tried doing that, though, and we've seen that we've either gotten to 100% exploration, or there are areas that just don't have any resources to be recovered at all. So, like, I don't know if we've been to Hades Gamma. Maybe it's worth taking a quick look here, seeing if we find anything, and then worst comes to worst, if the Reapers start chasing after us in any of these clusters, then we can retreat back to the Krogan DMZ, and by finishing one of these missions here, then we should be able to reset that stuff so that we can, well, go back here on a later occasion and not have it overrun by Reapers. So let's check it out. I don't think we've been to Hades Gamma in Mass Effect 3. It was a very common place for us to visit Mass Effect 1. And in fact, I even recognize some of the names of this system, like Baranada. I remember that. Dis as well. Ludus, I don't remember that one as well. I don't think we've scanned here. I don't think we've spent any time visiting here, but we can check things out. Why don't we read about planets first, then we'll scan, and then, I mean, there are... Actually. So you may remember my saying previously that there are several factors that determine how quickly an area gets overrun by Reapers. One of them is how many neighboring systems are connected to the system you're in, and there are at least 4, if not more, in other directions. I kind of hope there aren't more in other directions, because what that means is, theoretically, if we are to scan here and the Reapers would like to know our location, they will know our location very, very quickly. So we may need to be a little cautious about when and where we do those scans. So let's read up first. We have Hunador, which is a moderately sized ice world with an extremely thin atmosphere composed of krypton and xenon. Its frozen surface is unusually smooth, suggesting widespread repaving by cryovolcanic processes, though no such activity is currently evident. That is odd. Okay. So I suppose when we're reading this stuff, we can see if we can gather any inside info that would suggest maybe it's worth scanning that planet or in that general area. Because as I was saying, we probably only have one scan before this place gets overrun by Reapers. So, Vimal is an enormous terrestrial world of mixed rock and ice with an atmosphere of methane and ethane. Its frozen surface is mainly composed of calcium with deposits of iron. Because of noxious surface gases, explorers are warned to use extreme caution. And of course, if we happen to hear a little sound effect anywhere, then that's our automatic indication that, yes, that is something we should scan. And the other thing is that if there happens to be a mission in this cluster, in this system, then the Reapers just won't invade at all, which could be a nice little workaround, but not sure we can rely on that, because I don't think we know of anything here. Then we have Ploba, which is the second and by far the larger of Anateus' 2 gas giants. Active scans by survey ships, should we survey this place, have returned tantalizing indications of massive solid structures deep within the atmosphere. Ooh, what is that? Too regular in pattern to be anything natural. Very intriguing. Some believe Ploba is a Jupiter brain? A planet-sized supercomputer, what the heck? Adherents of this theory have fruitlessly beamed signals toward the sunken megastructures, hoping to get the machine's attention. I'm not sure that's something you would want to do. Others believe that an ancient spacefaring race disposed of their weapons of war by dumping them into the planet. The last attempts to reach and salvage Ploba's deep anomalies went tragically wrong and ended with a crew of 12 being trapped and crushed in the gas giant's lower atmosphere. Yeah, guys, maybe we just chill a little bit on the whole, hey, this planet is actually a gigantic supercomputer theory. Then there's Edmos, which is a standard hydrogen-helium gas giant with traces of methane in its atmosphere. If Trebin's terraforming is successful, it is expected that a helium-3 fuel refining facility for the system will be set up here. Trebin. That name, as we see right here, may ring a bell. The reason for that is I am fairly certain this was a planet on which we had a mission in Mass Effect 1. So that is really cool. As I was saying before, when we entered this system, it's a system, or rather, just this cluster as a whole. It's a cluster that we visited many times in Mass Effect 1, so the cluster still exists. And there are planets in those clusters that still exist that we saw in Mass Effect 1, possibly even Mass Effect 2 in some cases. And so I do like how there's that consistency. It makes it feel like, you know, these aren't just totally random places that got made up on a whim. They actually, you know, they're here for a reason, and, you know, you could have reason to remember what you had done on a planet like this previously. So Trevin is a modest terrestrial world with an atmosphere composed of nitrogen and argon. Its surface is mainly composed of nickel with deposits of silver. Trevin's environment is relatively mild, but the scarcity of water or similar enabling substances had prevented the development of any biosphere. Exogeny Corp, that name might also ring a bell, recently performed a test impact of a single water-ice comet into the surface, the first step of a long-term plan to thicken the atmosphere and introduce water to the environment. Exogeny, of course, you know, being the company that we heard about quite a bit in Mass Effect 1 on the Pharos mission that was conducting some research on the colonists of that system with, you know, maybe some mind-controlling plants and what have you. The survey team is on the surface monitoring the geological and meteorological effects of the test impact. Most of the water released is still in the form of atmospheric vapor, but thick cloud banks have formed. There is every indication that this arid world will soon see its first rain. The survey team's progress has been hampered by frequent mechanical or computer failures in their GPS satellites. Those darn satellites, man. Okay, so I'm tempted to scan that. And then... yeah, I mean, these names sound so familiar. Have we been here before? In Mass Effect 3? I mean, I know we've been here in Mass Effect 1. But... I feel like we might have even tested this place out in Mass Effect 3 as well. I don't know. We'll do a few scans and we'll see. During the initial survey of the Anatea system, only a single flyby probe was spared for the small, scorched world of a... is it a gecko? A gecko? I feel like we asked this same exact question in Mass Effect 1. Some things never change. It revealed the planet unusually rich in heavier elements, given its size. A gecko. We're gonna go with a gecko. That's way cooler. It's a standard terrestrial with a thin atmosphere of krypton and xenon. Its crust is mainly composed of magnesium with deposits of cobalt and other heavy metals. Due to extremely rough, cratered terrain, starships are discouraged from landing. Yeah, it's also 346 degrees Celsius, so you might not want to spend too much time there. Okay, so, given how we've not recovered any assets here, and I'm pretty sure this entire cluster had 0% on it, so we have not that would suggest we've not done any scans here, or in any of the neighboring systems, and there probably has got to be something, right? Okay, so I mean, this does look pretty juicy right here. Trying to get 3 planets in one.
Signal confirmed.
Okay. So as I said, the alertness is going to fill up pretty quickly, but fortunately there is something at Trevin. And as I said, this is the planet that we were visiting. I'm pretty sure we had a mission on it in Mass Effect 1. I don't remember what it was, though. I don't remember exactly what it was. Let's see what we have here, though. And it's credits. Oh, okay. I mean, that's certainly useful. We'll take it. Now, my question is 50% assets recovered. That's tricky. That's very tricky, because that, of course, means, yes, there's one other thing in here. Problem with that is that one more scan, I'm fairly certain, would fill that meter, sending the Reapers chasing after us. And especially since this is the system with the mass relay in it, meaning this is eventually the place we need to go to get out of here, this is not really the system that we want to have overrun by Reapers. So what I think we do is I think we explore the other areas without attracting the Reapers' attention here. We can be a little more aggressive in the other areas, and then before we head out through this mass relay and actually leave the Hades Gamma cluster, we'll try doing one more scan, and hopefully we're lucky enough to, well, actually get that last spot. Like, it might be this planet, it might be this planet, it might be somewhere out in the middle of nowhere like this. I mean, I hope not, otherwise there's a lot of ground for us to cover there. The other reason not to do it would be that, The locations where the Reapers are going to come in from are the directions that we would like to be traveling in. So that's not great. Also, there's no fuel station here. Ooh, that could make matters a little tricky if we have a lot of travel to do. So let's take a look at how far these places are. Ooh. Kind of just a huge circle. Does not make it easy. I was kind of hoping they were just going to all be right next to each other in the same spot. I think what we'll do is we'll go maybe counterclockwise here. And what we'd love would be... I mean, we're on full fuel right now. But we would love if, as we're exploring these other systems, we happen to uncover some additional fuel. Because otherwise it's going to be pretty tricky to make our rounds all the way to every single system in this cluster in one fell swoop. And there you see 11% assets recovered in this entire cluster, so there's still certainly a lot more to do. Okay, so let's start with the planets. We will probably do a loop-de-loop around that asteroid belt and see if we hear any sound effects that would suggest that there's something in the asteroid belt. First we have Crayarmus, which is a hydrogen-helium gas giant with a powerful magnetic field, making it a popular discharge site for freighters working in the Anansi-Ishtar shipping route. Sure, that means something to... I mean, presumably those are two planets, right? But I don't recognize the names. It is popular enough, in fact, that Quarian ships, can often be found loitering in orbit, selling the freighter crews cheap refreshments, salvage, and odd craftworks assembled by their children. Okay. There are no ships in orbit at present, however. Alright. That's that planet. Then we have Therangor, and again, this may be a system that existed in Mass Effect 1, possibly Mass Effect 2, but I know for a fact Mass Effect 1, so some of these names, again, might ring a bell. A large but low-density terrestrial world. Doesn't look true. I kind of just assumed it was a gas giant, but I guess that could be a terrestrial world. Therangor is generally believed to consist mainly of water ice. Okay, that explains why it's blue. Occasional upwelling of metals caused by the interacting tidal forces of several large moons suggest the core is small, but extremely dense. Therangor has a thin atmosphere of carbon dioxide and ethane. Its frozen surface is mainly composed of dark carbon-laced water ice. 13 years ago, Therangor's grim surface color and dim illumination drew the cinematographer Risa Uversen to film the exterior scenes of Starless on location. Acknowledged as a masterpiece of gothic horror, the sets, well preserved by the vacuum, draw hundreds of tourists to the backwater system every year. Okay. I don't know if that's reason to scan that planet. While we're making our way inward, why don't we do our loop-de-loop around the asteroid belt and keep your ears peeled, because that's totally an expression, for any sound effects that would suggest there's something here, and for that reason I'm deliberately not going to talk over this. 1 second. Anything hiding here? Not that I can tell. Okay, I mean, there may be something in here that just doesn't have a sound effect to it, but that gives us a decent indication that there's nothing hiding in the asteroid belt. But we have Zanmari. Zamari. Zamari is a small, airless, cratered terrestrial, a lifeless rock quite similar to Luna. Its frozen surface is mainly composed of silicates, though one hemisphere has several seas of dark basaltic rock. Oh. That's cool, I guess. And then we have Cho. That is definitely a planet we had a mission on in Mass Effect 1. I recognize that name. Cho is a terrestrial planet whose surface is mainly composed of aluminum, with numerous deposits of calcium. Though it has enough mass to retain a dense atmosphere, Cho is nearly a vacuum. This lack of atmosphere allows a moderate average temperature, but the differences between day and night are extreme. The surface of Cho's sunward-facing side is usually covered by a haze of volatiles, mainly water vapor and carbon dioxide, which return to the ground as frost over the course of the long, cold night. The Serta Foundation has established a research outpost on Cho to investigate the native subterranean life of Cho, which shows incredible resilience to extremes of heat and cold. That is cool. Oh, hold on. I was curious to see the other specs. Oh. Yeah, when they say the atmosphere is very thin, these 0 atmospheric pressures, that's pretty much as thin as it gets. And 11 degrees Celsius and 1 G gravity, I mean, it's not bad in that sense. Besides the whole, you know, all the water is going to evaporate from your body because there's no pressure at all. You know, spacesuits. Zayater? Zayater? An enigmatic terrestrial planet, Zayater has a hazy atmosphere of nitrogen and argon. The surface is scorching hot and mainly composed of calcium with deposits of sodium. 3 times in the last century, ships stopping to discharge at Crayarmus have reported geometric patterns of light on the dark side of Zayater. Attempts at closer investigation proved fruitless. The lights disappear when ships approach the inner system. Huh. Oddly suspicious. Okay, so I have a bit of a theory here. I don't think we've heard any little notifications of where we might expect to get assets to recover, but I think we saw in the previous system that we got something from scanning a planet that once upon a time, in Mass Effect 1, had a mission on it, so maybe we make a point of scanning Cho for that reason as well, and we'll see if we can get close enough to get Zayater as well.
I found something.
Yeah, there we go. Ooh, the theory remains strong at the moment, but once again, because there are tons of other systems here that are connected to the Caucasus system, that's why the meter fills up so quickly. So let's check out what it is on Cho. What is the deal exactly? Now, that was extremely misleading where this was. More credits. Okay, and I'm missing how many zeros those are. Are those 10,000 apiece? There's got to be 10,000, not 1,000, right? 1,000 would be rather lackluster. Okay, so here's the thing. Our meter is almost full. And if we do another scan, then we are definitely going to get the Reapers to invade this system. However, unlike the previous one we were in, this one does not have the mass relay in it, which means we can send the Reapers here and then immediately proceed to retreat. So it's not the end of the world. If we try to do one more scan, I mean, it's probably worth dropping a save because it is a game over if the Reapers catch you. So maybe we'll do that, and I mean, the problem is the other planets we'd like to scan are kind of right next to where the Reapers are going to end up coming in. So that's less than ideal. But maybe, I mean, this one looks like that's a bit of a death trap. I mean, it's right on the edge of the system, so we could just pop out right there. So maybe we'd be fine. But there would be Reapers on either side of us, which is a little concerning. I mean, I suppose same can be said with Farangor over here, although they're a little bit further away. So before we get too carried away, I thought I might have heard something there, but or maybe not. Before we get too carried away, let's save, because, well, apparently we get an autosave, but just in case the Reapers do catch us here. So, yeah, take your bet. Is it Farangor? I'm feeling like that's going to be the answer. Oh, also, when we reload, interestingly, when we reload, it no longer shows us where the Reapers are going to spawn in. Oh, I did not know that. I don't know if they're going to be in the same spot, or if they're going to be totally reset. If they are totally reset, we don't know where they're going to spawn in, and they could spawn in right on top of us, which is a little concerning. But let's try. Nothing here. We're going.
Faster than light jumps.
Okay. So we're out. No luck on that second scan. We're going to have to... If we don't get fuel here, we're probably going to have to double back to the mass relay system after this. Because, well, we are running a little low on the fuel. Yeah, Farinata, absolutely. I'm pretty sure another place where we had a mission in Mass Effect 1, as I said, Hades Gamma, place where we spent a lot of time in Mass Effect 1. And, in fact, one of them had Therum in it, where we, of course, initially met Liara, so it might even be here. We'll have to see.